The stars looked different here, Captain Jake Morrison thought as he stared out the window of his ship. The U.S. Ranger drifted slowly through space, its engines cold and silent. 3 days ago, everything had been working fine. They were on a simple mission to map new star systems and look for planets that might be useful someday. Now they were stuck. "Captain, the engine is completely dead," said Lisa Parker, his chief engineer. She wiped grease from her hands with a dirty cloth. The power core cracked right down the middle. "I've never seen anything like it." Jake nodded slowly. Lisa was the best engineer he had ever worked with. If she said the engine was dead, then it was dead. How long until rescue? "I sent the distress signal 2 days ago," said Ryan Cooper from his position at the communications desk. "Earth Command should get it in about a week. Then they need to send a ship. Maybe 3 weeks total." 3 weeks. Jake looked around the bridge of his small research ship. They had food and water for a month, but barely. The Ranger was not built for long trips. It was made for quick surveys near Earth, not deep space exploration. "Keep trying to fix the engine," Jake told Lisa. "Ryan, keep sending that distress signal. Maybe someone closer will hear it." What Jake didn't know was that someone had already heard it. Far across the solar system, alien ships move like sharks through dark water. The Zephyrian Empire had been watching this area of space for months. They were always looking for new planets to conquer and new species to control. Fleet Commander Crixtal stood on the bridge of his massive warship, staring at the reports his officers brought him. The Zephyrians looked like giant lizards that walked on 2 legs. Their skin was dark green and covered with scales. Their eyes were yellow and cold like a snake's eyes. "Commander, we are picking up signals from an unknown ship," reported a science officer. "The language is completely new to our databases." Crixtal's mouth opened to show rows of sharp teeth. This was what he lived for. "Show me." On the main screen, they could see a small ship drifting in space. It looked strange compared to other ships they knew about. Most alien ships in the galaxy were built to look scary or beautiful. This one looked like it was built just to work. "It appears to be damaged," said another officer. "Their engines are not running." "Perfect," Crixtal hissed. "A wounded animal is easier to catch. How many ships do they have in this area?" "Our scouts report no other vessels within 50 light years. Commander, this appears to be a single exploration craft." Crixtal laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 47 different species across the galaxy. They were experts at finding weak civilizations and crushing them before they could become a threat. This looked like another easy victory. "Bring the fleet," he ordered. "All of it. I want these new aliens to see our full power when we first meet them." Within hours, 200 Zephyrian warships gathered around the small human vessel. Each ship was huge and covered with weapons. They were painted in bright colors and decorated with symbols meant to scare their enemies. The Zephyrians believed that fear was the most important weapon in any war. Back on the Ranger, Ryan Cooper noticed something strange on his sensors. "Captain, I'm getting readings of multiple ships approaching our position." Jake hurried over to look at the screen. "How many?" "I can't tell exactly. The computer keeps saying error when it tries to count them. But it's a lot. Maybe more than 100. Are they responding to our distress call?" Ryan shook his head. "No, sir. They're not using any communication frequencies I recognize. And, Captain, they're not flying like rescue ships. They're flying like what? Like hunters." Jake felt cold fear in his stomach. The Ranger was not a military ship. It had no weapons except for a small mining laser used to take rock samples from asteroids. If these unknown aliens wanted to hurt them, there was nothing they could do to stop it. "Lisa, how's that engine coming?" he called out. "Still dead, Captain. Even if I could fix it, we couldn't outrun that many ships." The alien fleet moved closer. Soon they could see the ships with their own eyes through the windows. They were massive and looked like they were built for war. Jake had studied military history in school, and these ships reminded him of the old warships from Earth's oceans, covered with guns and armor. "Captain," Ryan said quietly, "they're trying to communicate with us." Jake took a deep breath. "Put them on the main screen." The face that appeared on their screen was clearly not human. Crixtal stared at them with his yellow eyes and showed his sharp teeth. When he spoke, the computer translated his words into English. Unknown vessel, you are now prisoners of the Zephyrian Empire. Prepare to be boarded for processing. Do not attempt to resist or you will be destroyed. Jake looked at his crew. Lisa looked scared but angry. Ryan looked like he might be sick. They were just scientists and explorers. They had never expected to meet hostile aliens. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Ship Ranger. Jake replied, trying to keep his voice steady. We are peaceful explorers. Our ship is damaged and we need help. Crixtal laughed again. Earth? We have never heard of this planet. No matter. You are primitive and weak. Your ship is small and has no weapons. You will surrender now and tell us about your home world. We don't want any trouble, Jake said. We're just trying to get home. Trouble? Crixtal's eyes glowed brighter. You do not understand, little human. We are the Zephyrian Empire. We rule 47 worlds and control the space between them. Your people will soon learn about before us, just like all the others. Jake felt something cold and hard form in his chest. These aliens were not here to help. They were here to conquer Earth, his home where his sister lived with her 2 children, his home where millions of people had no idea that monsters were coming for them. I won't help you hurt my people, he said quietly. Crixtal leaned forward on the screen. You have no choice, human. Look around you. We have 200 warships. You have 1 broken science vessel. Mathematics is simple even for primitive species like yours. Jake looked at his crew again. They were scared, but he could see something else in their eyes now. They were getting angry, too. Humans didn't like being threatened. Ryan, Jake said slowly, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we've made contact with hostile aliens. Send them everything we've learned about these ships. Captain, that message would take weeks to reach Earth, Ryan replied. Jake smiled for the first time since the engines had failed. Then we better make sure it's a good message. Fleet Commander Crixtal watched the small human ship with growing interest. In his many years of conquest, he had seen dozens of different alien species react to first contact with the Zephyrian Empire. Most begged for mercy. Some tried to run. A few fought back with whatever weak weapons they had. But these humans were doing something different. They were studying him. Commander, reported his communications officer, the humans are scanning our ships with their sensors. They appear to be recording everything. Let them look, Crixtal hissed. Fear will come soon enough when they understand how powerless they are. On the bridge of the Ranger, Jake Morrison was indeed studying everything he could about the alien fleet. Ryan Cooper worked at a station, recording every detail about the ships surrounding them. Lisa Parker had left the broken engine and joined them on the bridge. Captain, I've analyzed their ship designs, Lisa said, pointing to her tablet. These aren't exploration vessels. Every ship out there is built for war. Look at the weapon placements, the armor thickness, the way they move in formation. These aliens have been fighting wars for a long time. How long? Jake asked. Based on the ship designs, I guess hundreds of years, maybe thousands. Their technology is advanced, but it's all focused on conquest and control. Ryan looked up from his station. I've been listening to their communications. The computer is starting to translate some of their language. Captain, they're talking about us like we're animals. They keep using words that translate to primitive and weak. Jake nodded grimly. What else? They're discussing something called processing. From the context, it sounds like they want to take some of us back to their empire for study. The rest? Ryan's voice trailed off. The rest what? The rest they plan to leave here to die, sir. They don't see us as intelligent beings. They see us as specimens. Jake felt anger building in his chest. He had spent his whole life exploring space because he dreamed of meeting other intelligent species. He had imagined sharing knowledge and culture with aliens. He had never imagined meeting monsters. The main screen flickered, and Crixtal's face appeared again. Humans, you have had time to consider your situation. Prepare to be boarded. We will select which of you will come with us for study. And the others? Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. The others are not needed. Your ship will be destroyed to prevent it from sending signals to your homeworld. Lisa stepped forward. You're talking about murder. Crixtal tilted his head like a curious animal. Murder? You cannot murder lower life forms. When you step on an insect, do you call it murder? We're not insects, Jake said firmly. We're intelligent beings just like you. Intelligence is proven through strength, Crixtal replied. Your species builds ships with no weapons. You explore space instead of conquering it. You ask for help instead of taking what you need. These are not the actions of an intelligent species. Ryan was still listening to alien communications on his headset. He looked up at Jake with wide eyes and held up his hand for silence. Jake waited while Ryan listened carefully to the alien voices. Captain, Ryan whispered, they're talking about Earth. They've been monitoring our distress signal, and they're planning to track it back to our homeworld. They want to find Earth and conquer it. The cold feeling in Jake's stomach got worse. Earth had no idea these aliens existed. Humanity had been alone in space for so long that most people didn't even believe intelligent aliens were real. Earth's space forces were small and focused on exploration, not war. Against 200 alien warships, Earth would be helpless. We won't help you find Earth, Jake said loudly. Crixtal laughed. You will not need to help us. Human, your ship's navigation computer contains the location of your homeworld. We will simply take that information after we board your vessel. The computer is encrypted. You'll never break it. Perhaps, but we have other methods of gathering information. Your brain, for example, contains everything we need to know. There are machines that can extract memories from living tissue. Lisa made a disgusted sound. You're talking about torture. I am talking about efficient data collection, Crixtal corrected. Your pain is irrelevant to our goals. Jake looked around the bridge of his small ship. Ryan was young, barely 25 years old. He had joined the exploration service because he wanted to see the stars. Lisa was older and had 2 children back on Earth. Neither of them deserved to die here, and Earth didn't deserve to be conquered by these monsters. But Jake was starting to realize something that the aliens didn't understand. Humans might not have built warships, but they had built something else. They had built a communication network that connected every human ship and every human colony across space. Ryan, are you still recording everything? Jake asked quietly. Yes, sir. Every alien ship, every weapon system, every communication frequency. I've got it all. Good. Now I want you to do something different. I want you to send all of that information to Earth, but not as a distress call. Sir, Jake smiled grimly. Send it as a military intelligence report. Code it with emergency protocols. Make sure it gets sent to Earth Defense Command, not just civilian authorities. Captain, that will take a lot of power. It might overload our remaining systems. Do it anyway? Lisa understood first. You're not asking for rescue. You're sending a warning. That's right. These aliens think Earth is helpless because they've only seen one small exploration ship. They have no idea what humans are capable of when they're threatened. Crixtal was growing impatient on the screen. Enough talk. Prepare to be boarded, or we will destroy your ship immediately. Jake looked directly into the alien's yellow eyes. I have a message for you, Crixtal. You think you understand humans because you've seen one small science ship, but you don't know anything about us. I know that you are weak and primitive. We're explorers, Jake agreed. But exploration isn't the only thing humans do. We also have soldiers. We also have warriors. And we also have warships. Crixtal's eyes narrowed. Lies. We have studied your vessel. It has no weapons. This ship has no weapons, Jake corrected. But there are other human ships. Ships you haven't seen yet. Impossible. Our scouts have searched this entire region of space. Ryan finished uploading the data and looked at Jake with a nod. The message was sent. Somewhere in space, traveling at the speed of light, was everything Earth needed to know about the Zephyrian Empire. Your scouts are good, Jake admitted, but they're not perfect. And they made one big mistake. What mistake? Jake's smile got wider and colder. They let us send a message home. For the first time, Crixtal looked uncertain. Your distress signal was weak and primitive. It will take weeks to reach your homeworld. The distress signal was weak, Jake agreed, but the military alert we just sent was not. It was broadcast on emergency frequencies with signal boosters. That message will reach Earth Defense Command in less than 72 hours. The bridge of Crixtal's ship suddenly became very quiet. His officers looked at each other nervously. In all their years of conquest, they had never encountered a species that prepared for war while talking about peace. "You are bluffing," Crixtal said, but his voice was less certain now. "Maybe I am," Jake replied, "but are you willing to bet your entire fleet on that? Because if I'm not bluffing, you have about 3 days before you find out what human warships really look like." Crixtal stared at the small human captain for a long moment. Then he cut the communication signal. On his own bridge, he turned to his officers. "Double our sensor sweeps. I want to know the moment any ship enters the system." "Yes, Commander. Should we board the human vessel now?" Crixtal looked back at the screen where the human ship drifted peacefully in space. For the first time in his military career, he was not sure what to do. The human seemed too calm, too confident. It was not natural behavior for a defeated species. "Not yet," he said finally. "We wait. If these humans truly send a message, we will see what their military sends to rescue them. It will be good to know what kind of resistance we will face when we invade their homeworld." What Crixtal didn't know was that Jake Morrison was not bluffing. The message was real, and it was already racing through space toward Earth. And when it arrived, humanity would learn that they were not alone in the universe. They would also learn that someone wanted to destroy them. Admiral Kate Sullivan was drinking her morning coffee when the emergency alert came through. The harsh sound of the military alarm cut through the quiet of Earth Defense Command like a knife. She had been an admiral for 15 years and had heard that sound maybe a dozen times. It was never good news. "Admiral, we have a Priority 1 emergency transmission from deep space," reported her communications officer. Kate set down her coffee and walked quickly to the main command center. Priority 1 meant immediate threat to human life. It was the highest level of emergency in the military system. "Put on the main screen," she ordered. The message from Jake Morrison filled the room. His recorded voice was calm but serious as he described the alien fleet surrounding his ship. The technical data that Ryan Cooper had gathered scrolled across multiple screens, showing ship designs, weapon systems, and formation patterns. 200 ships, whispered Commander Amy Foster, Kate's second in command. "This isn't a scouting force. This is an invasion fleet." Kate studied the alien ship designs with growing concern. She had spent her career preparing for the possibility of hostile first contact, but she had always imagined it would start small. Maybe one alien ship, maybe a diplomatic mission gone wrong. She had never imagined that humanity's first contact would be with a massive war fleet. "Where is this transmission coming from?" she asked. "Deep space, Sector 7 Alpha. About 2 weeks travel time at maximum speed." "And how old is this message?" 71 hours, Admiral." Kate did quick calculations in her head. The aliens had been holding Jake Morrison and his crew for 3 days already. They could be dead by now or worse. But that wasn't the biggest problem. The biggest problem was what Captain Morrison had said in his message about the aliens planning to find Earth. "Get me President Hayes on the secure line," Kate ordered, "and summon the Defense Council. All members, immediate emergency session." While her staff made the calls, Kate continued studying the alien ship data. Each vessel was clearly built for war, with heavy armor and multiple weapon systems. But what worried her most was not their military capability. What worried her was their formation. These aliens moved like they had been fighting wars for centuries. Their ships formed perfect geometric patterns that would maximize firepower while protecting their weaker vessels. Their communication frequencies were encrypted and constantly changing. Their sensor sweeps were thorough and professional. These were not primitives who had stumbled onto advanced technology. These were experienced soldiers from a military culture. "Admiral, President Hayes is on line 1. reported her communications officer. Kate picked up the secure phone. "Mr. President, we have a situation." 20 minutes later, she was in the emergency bunker beneath Earth Defense Command, standing before the hastily assembled Defense Council. The room contained the most powerful military and political leaders on Earth, all looking at the same alien ship data that Kate had been studying. "Ladies and gentlemen, as of 71 hours ago, humanity is no longer alone in the universe," Kate began. "Unfortunately, our new neighbors appear to be hostile." The questions came fast and angry. How many ships? What weapons? Where are they from? How much time do we have? Kate answered what she could, but there were too many unknowns. They had Jake Morrison's data, but it only showed them one alien fleet. There could be hundreds more fleets out there. There could be thousands. "What are our options?" asked General Carl Martinez, the head of Earth's ground forces. "Limited," Kate replied honestly. "Our space fleet consists of 47 ships, most of them explorers and cargo vessels like the Ranger. We have exactly 12 military vessels, and only one true warship." "The Leviathan," said President Hayes. "Yes, sir. The U.S. Leviathan is our most advanced ship, but was designed for planetary defense, not deep space combat against a fleet of 200 vessels." The room fell silent. Everyone understood the mathematics. 12 human military ships against 200 alien warships was not a battle. It was a massacre. "What about our ground defenses?" asked someone. "Useless if they control space," Kate replied. "If these aliens can destroy our orbital stations and our fleet, they can bomb Earth's surface from orbit. Our ground forces would never get a chance to fight." President Hayes leaned back in his chair. "So, what do you recommend, Admiral?" Kate had been thinking about this question since she first saw the alien data. There were no good options, but there was one possibility. "We send the Leviathan," she said. The room erupted in protests. Send their only real warship against impossible odds? It was suicide. "Admiral, the Leviathan cannot defeat 200 enemy vessels," said General Martinez. "You're right," Kate agreed. "It can't, but that's not the mission." "Then what is the mission?" Kate walked to the main display screen and pointed to the alien fleet formation. "These aliens are confident. They're sitting in open space, holding our people prisoner, probably planning their next move against Earth. They think they understand us based on one small science ship." "They do understand us," said Commander Foster. "We are outgunned by 50 to 1. "No," Kate said firmly. "They understand one small exploration vessel. They have no idea what a human warship looks like or what it can do." The room was quiet as everyone considered this. "You want to use a Leviathan for psychological warfare," President Hayes said slowly. "Exactly. These aliens have conquered 47 different species. Captain Morrison's message made that clear. But I guarantee you that none of those species were like us." "What do you mean?" Kate smiled grimly. "Mr. President, how many wars has humanity fought in its history?" "I don't understand the relevance." "How many wars?" Kate repeated. President Hayes thought for a moment. "Thousands. Tens of thousands, if you count all the tribal conflicts and civil wars." "And how many other species have we found evidence of that fought wars against their own kind?" Understanding began to dawn in the president's eyes. "None. Every archaeological site we've discovered on other worlds shows peaceful civilizations that never developed military technology." "That's right. As far as we know, humans are unique in the galaxy. We're the only species that spent thousands of years fighting ourselves and learning how to build better weapons. These aliens may have conquered dozens of peaceful species, but they've never faced anyone like us." General Martinez leaned forward. "You think one human warship can scare off an entire alien fleet?" "I think one human warship might make them realize that conquering Earth won't be as easy as they thought. And if we're lucky, that realization will make them pause long enough for us to prepare our defenses. And if we're wrong," asked Commander Foster, "then we lose the Leviathan and Captain Rodriguez and his crew. But we would lose them anyway when the aliens attack Earth. At least this way, they die fighting and maybe buy us some time." President Hayes was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. "Do it," Send a Leviathan to rescue our people and show these aliens what humans are capable of. Kate saluted. Yes, sir. I'll contact Captain Rodriguez immediately. As the meeting broke up and the leaders hurried away to begin war preparations, Kate remained in the bunker, staring at the alien ship data. She hoped she was right about human uniqueness. She hoped that their violent history would finally be useful for something other than causing suffering. Because if she was wrong, humanity was about to face extinction. 2 hours later, the U.S. Leviathan left Earth orbit, accelerating toward the coordinates where Jake Morrison and his crew were being held prisoner. Captain Ben Rodriguez sat in his command chair, studying the same alien data that Admiral Sullivan had shown the Defense Council. Helm, maximum speed, he ordered. We have people to rescue and aliens to educate. The Leviathan was humanity's pride, built with lessons learned from every war they had ever fought. It carried weapons that could crack planets and armor that could survive nuclear explosions. But more importantly, it carried a crew that understood something the aliens did not. Humans had been fighting wars since they lived in caves. They had learned to kill with sticks and stones, then with bronze and iron, then with gunpowder and steel, and finally with nuclear fire and antimatter. Every weapon humanity had ever built was designed not just to defeat enemies, but to terrify them. The Leviathan was the culmination of that long, bloody education, and it was coming. Captain Ben Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the U.S. Leviathan, watching the star charts as his ship moved through hyperspace toward the alien fleet. He was 43 years old and had been in the military for 25 years. He had trained for this moment his entire career, though he had always hoped it would never come. Captain, we'll drop out of hyperspace in 6 hours, reported his navigation officer, Lieutenant Sarah White. Good. Amy, what's our weapon status? He asked his tactical officer, Commander Amy Foster. All systems online and ready, sir. Missile batteries loaded, energy weapons charged, point defense systems active. We're as ready as we can be. Ben nodded and turned to his communications officer. Carl, any word from the alien fleet? They're still holding position around the Ranger, sir, reported Chief Communications Officer Carl Martinez. No change in their formation or alert status. They appear to be waiting. Waiting for what? Unknown, sir. Maybe they're waiting to see if we actually show up. Ben walked to the main view screen and stared at the swirling colors of hyperspace. The Leviathan was a good ship with a good crew, but they were still just one vessel going against 200. The mathematics were simple and brutal. But Ben had studied military history his whole life, and he knew that mathematics didn't always determine the outcome of battles. Sometimes psychology mattered more than numbers. Sometimes fear was more powerful than weapons. Sir, would you like me to brief the crew? Asked Commander Foster. Yes, but not yet. First, I want to tell them about the aliens we're going to face. Ben activated the ship's internal communication system, so his voice would reach every member of his crew. This is the captain speaking. In a few hours, we're going to drop out of hyperspace and face a hostile alien fleet that outnumbers us 200 to 1. I know that sounds impossible, and maybe it is, but I want you to understand something about these aliens and something about us. He paused, thinking about how to explain what Admiral Sullivan had told him before they left Earth. The aliens we're facing call themselves the Zephyrian Empire. They've conquered 47 different species across the galaxy. They're experienced soldiers, and their ships are well designed for war. But they have one weakness that I don't think they understand. Throughout the ship, crew members stop what they were doing to listen to their captain's words. Every species they've conquered so far has been peaceful. The galaxy is full of civilizations that develop technology without ever learning how to fight wars. They built cities without walls, ships without weapons, and governments without armies. When the Zephyrians arrived, these species had no idea how to resist. Ben walked across the bridge, his boots clicking on the metal floor. But we're not like those species. Humans have been fighting wars for 50,000 years. We've fought with stones and spears, with swords and shields, with cannons and muskets, with tanks and aircraft, and with nuclear weapons that could destroy entire continents. We fought wars against nature, wars against each other, and wars against ideas. Fighting is what we do. He stopped in front of the main screen again. Every weapon on this ship exists because humans learned how to kill other humans more efficiently. Every piece of armor exists because humans learned how to survive attacks from other humans. Every tactical system exists because humans learned how to outthink other humans in battle. The bridge was completely silent as the crew absorbed these words. The aliens think they're facing another peaceful species that will surrender when they see overwhelming force. They have no idea that they're facing a species that considers 200 to 1 odds just another day at the office. They don't know that humans have won battles against impossible odds hundreds of times throughout history. Ben activated his personal communication device and called up historical records from Earth's military database. Computer, display human military conflicts by time period. On the screens throughout the ship, images appeared showing human warriors from every era. Cave paintings of hunters fighting giant animals. Egyptian armies with bronze weapons. Roman legions conquering Europe. Medieval knights in armor. Napoleonic soldiers with muskets. World War soldiers in trenches. Modern soldiers with advanced weapons. This is our history, Ben continued. Every human alive today is descended from survivors of countless wars. Every human city was built by people who knew how to fight. Every human government was created by people who understood military strategy. We are a warrior species, and we're about to remind the galaxy what that means. Throughout the ship, crew members looked at the historical images with new understanding. They had grown up in a peaceful time when Earth's wars were mostly in the past. But the instincts were still there, passed down through generations of survivors. I'm not saying this battle will be easy, Ben said honestly. The aliens have more ships and probably more firepower, but they've never faced anyone like us. They've never fought against a species that treats war as both an art and a science. They're about to learn why humans are the only species in the galaxy that builds warships for fun. A few crew members actually smiled at that. It was true. Even during peacetime, humans continue to design and build military vessels just to see if they can make them better. Our mission is to rescue Captain Morrison and his crew from the Ranger, but we have a secondary mission that's just as important. We need to show these aliens that conquering Earth won't be the easy victory they're expecting. We need to plant the seed of doubt in their minds. Ben looked around the bridge at his officers. Amy Foster looked determined. Carl Martinez looked focused. Sarah White looked ready for anything. Questions, he asked. Sir, what if they try to negotiate? Asked Commander Foster. They won't, Ben replied confidently. Species like this don't negotiate with what they see as inferior beings. They'll either attack us or try to intimidate us into surrendering. And if they attack, Ben smiled coldly. Then we show them what humans learned during 50,000 years of warfare. Sir, incoming transmission from Earth Command, reported Carl Martinez. Put it through? Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on the screen. Captain Rodriguez, you should know that we've detected additional alien activity on our deep space sensors. This fleet may not be alone. Understood, Admiral. How many more ships are we talking about? Unknown. Could be dozens. Could be hundreds. We're still analyzing the data. Ben nodded. Any change to our mission parameters? Negative. Rescue our people and gather intelligence on alien capabilities. But, Captain, if you determine that engagement is hopeless, you're authorized to withdraw. We need the Leviathan and her crew alive to defend Earth. Understood, Admiral. We'll see you soon. The transmission ended and Ben looked around his bridge again. Everyone understood the situation now. They were not just risking their own lives. If they failed, Earth would face the alien fleet with almost no defenses. 1 hour to drop out, reported Lieutenant White. All hands to battle stations, Ben ordered. Seal the ship for combat. Charge all weapon systems. This is not a drill. Throughout the Leviathan, crew members hurried to their positions. In the weapons bays, teams prepared missiles and checked targeting systems. In engineering, technicians brought the ship's power systems to maximum output. In the medical bay, doctors prepared for casualties. But in the ship's computer core, something else was happening. The Leviathan's artificial intelligence was loading historical data about human warfare. tactical manuals from every military conflict in human history, and psychological profiles of dozens of different enemy types. The ship's AI had been designed by humans who understood that in war, information was often more valuable than weapons. It contained the accumulated military wisdom of an entire species that had spent millennia learning how to fight and win against impossible odds. As the Leviathan prepared to drop out of hyperspace, Captain Rodriguez made one final announcement to his crew. Remember, we represent all of humanity today. These aliens are about to learn that humans are not like the other species they've conquered. We don't surrender. We don't give up. And we don't lose without making our enemies pay a terrible price. The hyperspace window collapsed around the ship, and the Leviathan returned to normal space at the edge of the system where the alien fleet waited. Immediately, every sensor on the ship came alive with contacts. 200 alien vessels, just as Captain Morrison had reported. They were arranged in a perfect formation around the small human research ship, their weapons trained on the Ranger. "Sir, the aliens are hailing us," reported Carl Martinez. "Let them wait," Ben said calmly. "First, I want them to get a good look at what a human warship looks like." "Impossible," Crixtal hissed, but his confidence was cracking. On the human ship, Rodriguez was broadcasting more than just threats. The Leviathan's computers were sending detailed scans of the alien fleet to Earth Command, but they were also broadcasting something else on all frequencies. "Carl, begin the historical broadcast," Rodriguez ordered. Throughout the alien fleet, communication officers began picking up transmissions from the human ship. At first, they thought it was random data, but as their computers began translating the signals, they realized they were looking at human historical records. Images of human warfare filled their screens. Ancient battles with primitive weapons that killed thousands. Medieval sieges that lasted for years. Industrial wars that consumed entire continents. Nuclear exchanges that turned cities into glass. But what truly horrified the aliens was not the scale of human warfare, but the innovation. The records showed humans constantly developing new ways to kill each other. Poison gas, biological weapons, psychological warfare, orbital bombardment, weapons designed not just to destroy enemies, but to terrorize them. "Commander," his communications officer said in a shaking voice, "the humans are broadcasting their military history. Sir, these beings have been fighting wars for their entire evolutionary development. They've used weapons against their own species that we wouldn't use against our worst enemies." Crixtal stared at the images scrolling across his screens. Humans in primitive armor fighting with swords. Humans in modern uniforms firing weapons that could level mountains. Humans in spacesuits operating weapons that could crack planets. "They fought all of these wars against each other?" he asked quietly. "Yes, sir. Their own species. For thousands of years." The implications hit Crixtal like a physical blow. If humans were willing to use such devastating weapons against their own kind, what would they be willing to use against alien invaders? "Sir, the human ship is moving," reported his tactical officer. On the screen, the Leviathan was slowly moving toward the center of the alien formation. It wasn't charging to attack or retreating to safety. It was calmly positioning itself between the alien fleet and the disabled human research ship. "They're protecting their damaged vessel," Crixtal observed. "Yes, sir, but sir, look at their positioning. They're not taking a defensive stance. They're taking an offensive one. They're positioning to attack us while simultaneously shielding their other ship." Crixtal realized with growing horror that the human captain wasn't trying to negotiate or escape. He was preparing to fight all 200 alien ships at once, and he seemed confident that he could win. "Commander Rodriguez," Crixtal said into communication system, "surely you understand that you cannot defeat our entire fleet with a single ship." The human captain's image appeared on screen again, and his smile was even colder than before. "Commander Crixtal, you've conquered 47 peaceful species, but you've never fought anyone like us. Humans have been preparing for this fight for 50,000 years. This fight, war against a superior alien force. It's been our greatest fear and our greatest motivation since we first looked up at the stars. Every weapon on this ship, every tactical system, every piece of armor was designed specifically to fight off an alien invasion. Rodriguez paused to let that information sink in. You see, Commander, your empire made one critical error. You assumed that all intelligent species would be like the peaceful civilizations you've conquered before. But humans are different. We're not just intelligent. We're predators. We're survivors. And we're very, very good at killing things that try to hurt us. Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, crews were beginning to panic. They had expected to face primitive aliens with inferior technology. Instead, they were facing what appeared to be the ultimate military vessel designed by a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of warfare. "Sir," whispered Crickstow, second in command, "maybe we should consider withdrawal. We could return with reinforcements." Crickstow was thinking the same thing, but he couldn't show weakness in front of his crew. The Zephyrian Empire had never retreated from an inferior force. But as he looked at the human warship positioning itself for battle, one terrible thought kept running through his mind. What if the humans weren't inferior after all? The Leviathan moved through space like a dark predator stalking its prey. As it positioned itself for battle, more and more of its systems came online. Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, sensor operators watched in growing horror as the human ship revealed its true capabilities. "Commander, the human vessel is activating additional weapon systems," reported Crickstow science officer, his voice trembling. "I'm detecting energy signatures I've never seen before." "Show me," Crickstow ordered, though part of him didn't want to see. The main screen displayed a technical analysis of the Leviathan. Red markers indicated confirmed weapon systems. As they watched, more and more markers appeared across the ship's hull. "Sir, I count over 200 individual weapon systems. And that's just what we can detect from the outside. The ship's internal configuration suggests there may be many more." Crickstow felt cold fear creeping up his spine. 200 weapons on a single ship? That's impossible. "Sir, I'm also detecting what appears to be a manufacturing system inside the ship. They appear to be building additional missiles and ammunition while we watch." Around the bridge, Zephyrian officers looked at each other with wide, frightened eyes. They had never encountered a ship that could produce its own weapons during battle. What about their defenses? Crickstow asked desperately. "Sir, the armor appears to be some kind of layered system I don't understand. Our heaviest weapons might be able to damage it, but I estimate it would take concentrated fire from at least 50 ships to penetrate their hull. And their shields? Sir, I don't think they have shields." "What? That's impossible. Every ship has shields." "No, sir. I mean, they don't need shields. Their armor is so thick and advanced that they apparently don't require additional defensive systems. Sir, this ship was designed to absorb massive amounts of damage and keep fighting." Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, similar conversations were happening on every bridge. Ship captains who had conquered dozens of worlds were looking at their sensor readings with disbelief and growing terror. Captain Rodriguez was monitoring the alien communications with satisfaction. The Leviathan's computer systems were automatically translating the alien language, and he could hear the fear in their voices. "Sir, they're scared," reported Carl Martinez from his communication station. "Good," Rodriguez replied. "Fear makes people make mistakes. Amy, what's our weapon status?" "All systems online and ready, sir. Missile batteries loaded with our heaviest warheads. Energy weapons charged to maximum output. Point defense systems active. We're ready for anything they can throw at us." Rodriguez nodded and activated the ship's external speakers, so his voice would be broadcast to the entire alien fleet. "Attention, Zephyrian fleet. You came to this system expecting to conquer another peaceful civilization, but you've made a critical error in judgment. Humans are not peaceful. We are warriors. And this ship represents the accumulated military knowledge of our entire species." He paused to let the translation computers process his words. "For 50,000 years, humans have fought wars. We have studied every aspect of combat, from individual weapons to fleet tactics. We have learned from every defeat and improved with every victory. The ship you are facing is a result of that long, bloody education." Throughout the alien fleet, crews listened to the human captain's words with growing dread. "This vessel carries weapons that your species has never imagined. Nuclear missiles that can crack moons. energy cannons that can vaporize asteroids, kinetic weapons that can punch through any armor. And those are just our conventional weapons. Rodriguez smiled coldly as he delivered his next words. But our most dangerous weapon is not any piece of technology. Our most dangerous weapon is our willingness to use everything we have to protect our people. Humans do not surrender. We do not retreat. And we do not negotiate with those who threaten our families. In the Zephyrian command ship, Krixtal was receiving reports from throughout his fleet. His captains were beginning to panic, and some were requesting permission to withdraw. Commander, the Stellar Wing is reporting power fluctuations in their weapon systems, said his communications officer. They claim it's equipment failure, but... Sir, I think they're afraid. Several ships are reporting mysterious technical problems that prevent them from maintaining attack formations. Krixtal realized that his fleet was beginning to fall apart before the battle had even started. Crews that had been confident and aggressive were now finding excuses to avoid direct confrontation with the human ship. Sir, incoming transmission from a human vessel, reported another officer. Put it through. Captain Rodriguez's face appeared on the screen again. This time, he was not alone. Behind him, Krixtal could see other humans working at various stations. They all moved with calm efficiency, like professionals preparing for a job they had done many times before. Commander Krixtal, I want to show you something, Rodriguez said. Computer, display human fleet organization. On screens throughout the Zephyrian fleet, images appeared showing human military vessels. There were ships designed for different types of combat. Fast attack vessels, heavy artillery ships, carrier vessels that launched smaller fighters, and massive dreadnoughts built for line-of-battle combat. What you're looking at is just our peacetime fleet, Rodriguez explained. These ships patrol human space and protect our colonies, but they're not our main defense force. More images appeared, showing industrial facilities and construction yards. In the event of alien invasion, every human colony and every human world can begin producing warships. Our entire civilization is designed to transform from peaceful exploration to total warfare in a matter of weeks. Krixtal stared at the images with growing horror. The humans had built an entire industrial system designed for war production. Even their civilian facilities could be converted to military use. You see, Commander, your empire has been conquering species that never learned how to fight. But humans have been fighting since before we had written language. War is not something we do occasionally. War is something we are. Rodriguez gestured to his bridge crew. Every person on this ship has studied military history since childhood. Every human world has military academies. Every human family tells stories about ancestors who fought in famous battles. We don't just have soldiers. Commander, we are all soldiers. The communication ended, leaving the Zephyrian fleet in stunned silence. Sir, whispered Krixtal's tactical officer, if what they're saying is true, then conquering their homeworld would be impossible. Krixtal finished quietly. He had spent his career conquering peaceful species that surrendered after losing a few ships. The idea of fighting an entire civilization that was designed for warfare was beyond his comprehension. Commander, several ships are requesting permission to withdraw to a safer distance, reported his communications officer. Denied, Krixtal said automatically, but his voice lacked conviction. Sir, the Voyhan reports that their crew is becoming unreliable. They're requesting replacement personnel. Krixtal realized that his fleet was falling apart. Ships that had been eager for battle were now finding excuses to avoid combat. Crews that had been confident were now paralyzed by fear. And they hadn't even started fighting yet. Sir, the human ship is moving again, reported his sensor operator. On the screen, the Leviathan was slowly rotating to bring more weapons to bear on the alien fleet. As it turned, new weapon systems became visible, and the ship's power output increased even more. How much firepower does that single ship have? Krixtal asked desperately. Sir, based on current readings, I estimate their weapons are capable of destroying our entire fleet. Not defeating us in battle, destroying us completely. For the first time in his military career, Fleet Commander Krixtal of the mighty Zephyrian Empire was truly afraid. He was beginning to realize that his fleet had not found easy prey. They had found the apex predators of the galaxy, and the predators were preparing to hunt. Captain Rodriguez stood calmly on the bridge of the Leviathan, watching as his ship took position between the alien fleet and the disabled Ranger. Around him, his crew worked with the quiet efficiency of professionals who had trained for this moment their entire careers. "Distance of the Ranger?" he asked. 2,000 kilometers and closing, sir," reported Lieutenant White from navigation. "We'll be in optimal rescue position in 10 minutes. "Good. Amy, begin deploying our escort drones." Throughout space around the Leviathan, small robotic fighters began launching from hidden bays. Each drone was armed with its own weapons and could operate independently of the main ship. In the Zephyrian command vessel, Crixtal watched the human ship with growing desperation. "How many of those small craft are they deploying?" "Sir, I count over 300 so far, and they're still launching more," his tactical officer replied. "Each appears to be armed with multiple weapon systems." 300 escort fighters from a single ship? Crixtal's voice cracked with disbelief. "Our largest carriers can only deploy 50 fighters. Sir, these don't appear to be manned fighters. I think they're automated weapon systems." The implications hit Crixtal like a physical blow. The humans had not only built a ship with massive firepower, they had built it to fight against overwhelming numbers by deploying its own fleet of robotic warriors. "Commander, incoming transmission from Admiral Threx of the 2nd Battle Group," reported his communications officer. Admiral Threx's scale face appeared on a secondary screen. He commanded 50 ships positioned on the far side of the alien formation. "Crixtal, my crews are beginning to panic," Threx reported. "Half my captains are reporting equipment failures that prevent them from maintaining attack positions. The other half are requesting orders to withdraw." "We do not withdraw from inferior species," Crixtal replied automatically. "Are they inferior?" Threx asked quietly. "Look at your sensor readings, Crixtal. That single ship has more firepower than both our battle groups combined. And if their claims about their military culture are true—" "They're bluffing," Crixtal said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Are they? My intelligence officer has been analyzing their historical broadcasts. Crixtal, these beings fought a war that killed 60 million of their own species with primitive weapons. They detonated nuclear weapons on their own homeworld. They developed biological weapons that could kill entire populations, and then decided those weapons were too horrible to use." Admiral Threx paused to let that information sink in. "If they were willing to do that to each other, what do you think they'll do to us?" Before Crixtal could answer, another alarm sounded on his bridge. "Sir, the human ship is hailing us again," his communications officer reported. "Put it through." Captain Rodriguez appeared on the main screen. Behind him, the bridge of the Leviathan bustled with activity as crew members prepared for multiple operations simultaneously. "Commander Crixtal, I'm going to give you one final opportunity to avoid unnecessary bloodshed," Rodriguez said calmly. "Withdraw your fleet to a distance of at least 1 million kilometers and release the crew of the Ranger to our custody. And if I refuse?" Crixtal asked. Rodriguez smiled coldly. "Then I will demonstrate why humans are the only species in the galaxy that considers 200 to 1 odds a fair fight." As he spoke, more systems came online aboard the Leviathan. The ship's massive engines began charging for what appeared to be combat maneuvers. "You cannot seriously intend to fight our entire fleet with a single ship," Crixtal protested. "Commander, let me tell you about a battle from human history," Rodriguez replied. 300 human warriors once faced an army of over 100,000 enemies. They were outnumbered more than 300 to 1. Do you know what happened? Crixtal remained silent. The 300 humans held their position for 3 days and killed over 20,000 enemies before they were finally overwhelmed. And that was with primitive weapons and no technological advantage. Rodriguez gestured toward his bridge crew. "I have 1,200 crew members aboard this ship, and we have every technological advantage. What do you think we can accomplish against only 200 ships?" Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, crews listened to the human captain's words with growing terror. The idea of facing an enemy who considered hopeless odds merely an interesting challenge was beyond their comprehension. "Sir, we're receiving additional transmissions from the human vessel," Crickstow's communications officer reported. "They appear to be scanning our ships and transmitting the data somewhere else." "Where?" "Unknown, sir, but the signals are very powerful. They're reaching far outside the star system." Crickstow realized with horror that the humans were not just preparing to fight. They were sending intelligence about Zephyrian ship designs and capabilities back to their homeworld. Even if they defeated the single human ship, Earth would know everything about Zephyrian military technology. "Sir, Admiral Vex of the 3rd Battle Group is requesting permission to speak with you," his communications officer reported. Admiral Vex commanded the largest ships in the fleet, including 3 massive dreadnoughts that served as mobile fortresses. Crickstow, Vex said when he appeared on screen, "I've been analyzing the human ship's weapon signatures. Their primary energy cannons appear to be more powerful than the main guns on my dreadnoughts." "That's impossible." "I thought so, too, but the mathematics are clear. If that ship fires at full power, it can destroy any vessel in our fleet with a single shot. Then we attack simultaneously from all directions," Crickstow said desperately. "They cannot target all of us at once." "Actually, they can," Vex replied grimly. "Their point defense systems appear designed to engage hundreds of targets simultaneously, and they have those robotic fighters to extend their engagement range." On the Leviathan, Captain Rodriguez was monitoring the alien communications with satisfaction. Fear was spreading through their fleet like a virus. "Sir, we're in position to begin rescue operations," reported Commander Foster. "Excellent. Begin transport of Captain Morrison and his crew. And Amy, sir, make sure the aliens can see exactly how our transport systems work. I want them to understand that their weapons can't prevent us from completing our mission." Throughout space, the alien fleet watched as the Leviathan extended an energy beam toward the disabled Ranger. Within minutes, the human crew was safely aboard the rescue ship. "Sir, we have Captain Morrison and his people," Foster reported. "Good. Now comes the interesting part." Rodriguez activated the communications system again. "Commander Crickstow, I have successfully rescued my people. Your hostages are no longer a factor in this situation. You now have a simple choice to make." "What choice?" "You can withdraw your fleet and report to your empire that humanity is not the easy target you expected. Or you can attack us and discover firsthand why humans have never lost a war against an alien species." "You have never fought alien species before," Crickstow protested. "True," Rodriguez admitted. "But we've been preparing for this fight for centuries. Every tactical scenario, every weapon system, every strategy aboard this ship was designed specifically for combat against a technologically advanced alien fleet." He paused to let that sink in. "Commander, your empire conquered 47 peaceful species, but you made a critical error. You assumed all intelligent life would be peaceful. Humans are not peaceful. We are predators who learn to cooperate. We are warriors who turn warfare into both an art and a science." Rodriguez looked directly into the camera, his eyes cold and confident. "So what will it be, Commander? Will you be the first Zephyrian commander to make a strategic withdrawal? Or will you be the last Zephyrian commander to underestimate humanity?" Throughout the alien fleet, crews waited for their commander's decision, knowing that their lives hung in the balance. And for the first time in Zephyrian history, Fleet Commander Crickstow seriously considered the possibility of retreat. Fleet Commander Crickstow stared at the human warship on his main screen, his mind racing through calculations that all led to the same terrible conclusion. The Leviathan hung in space like a dark promise of destruction, its weapons trained on his fleet, its robotic escorts forming a deadly perimeter around the rescued human crew. "Sir, Admiral Threx is requesting immediate orders," his communications officer reported. "Several of his ships are reporting critical system failures and requesting permission to withdraw for repairs." Crickstow knew the truth. His ships weren't experiencing system failures. His crews were finding excuses to avoid battle with the human vessel. In 40 years of military service, he had never seen Zephyrian warriors lose their courage before firing a single shot. "Commander," his science officer said quietly, "I've completed my analysis of the human ship's capabilities. Based on observed weapon systems and power output, I estimate they could destroy our entire fleet in approximately 18 minutes. 18 minutes, Crixtal repeated numbly. Yes, sir, and that's assuming we could maintain organized resistance throughout the engagement. Given current crew morale, actual combat effectiveness would be significantly lower. Around the bridge, Crixtal's officers avoided meeting his eyes. They all understood the situation. They were facing an enemy unlike anything in their experience, and their traditional tactics of overwhelming force and intimidation had completely failed. Sir, incoming transmission from a human vessel, his communications officer announced. Captain Rodriguez appeared on screen one final time. Behind him, Crixtal could see the rescued crew of the Ranger being welcomed aboard by their fellow humans. Captain Morrison stepped into view and nodded respectfully to Rodriguez. Commander Crixtal, Rodriguez said calmly, Captain Morrison has briefed me on your Empire's standard conquest procedures. Apparently, you prefer to crush resistance quickly to minimize your own losses. That is correct, Crixtal replied stiffly. I understand the logic. It's actually similar to human military doctrine in some ways. But there's a fundamental difference between your approach and ours. Rodriguez paused, and Crixtal found himself waiting despite his anger and frustration. Your empire conquers species that don't know how to fight back. You've developed tactics for defeating peaceful civilizations. But humans developed our tactics for defeating other humans. We learned warfare by fighting against opponents who were just as intelligent, just as determined, and just as well-armed as we were. The human captain gestured toward the data displays behind him. Every weapon on this ship exists because we needed to defeat enemies who were trying to kill us with equally advanced weapons. Every defensive system exists because we face opponents who could think tactically and adapt to our strategies. Every crew member has trained against human opponents who understood warfare as well as they did. Rodriguez's expression grew colder. Commander, your empire has never faced an opponent like that. You never fought against someone who wanted to win as badly as you do. You've never encountered an enemy who was prepared to sacrifice everything to protect their people. Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, crews listened to the human captain's words with growing understanding. They were not facing another peaceful species to be conquered. They were facing predators who had spent thousands of years learning how to kill other predators. Sir, Crixtal's tactical officer whispered, long-range sensors are detecting additional energy signatures approaching the system edge. Crixtal felt his heart sink. More human ships? Unknown, sir, but the signatures are consistent with the vessel we're currently facing. Captain Rodriguez seemed to notice something on his own displays. Ah, Commander, it appears my backup has arrived ahead of schedule. On screens throughout the Zephyrian fleet, new contact appeared on the edge of the star system. 3 more ships, each as large and deadly-looking as a Leviathan, were approaching at high speed. Commander Crixtal, Rodriguez continued, I'd like you to meet Captain Sarah Blake of the UES Thunderbolt, Captain Mike Chun of the UES Stormbreaker, and Captain Lisa Hayes of the UES Warhammer. Earth Command decided that one ship might not be sufficient to handle 200 alien vessels. Crixtal stared at the approaching human warships with complete despair. For ships against his 200 should still have been manageable, but the mathematics no longer mattered. His crews were already demoralized by facing a single human vessel. The arrival of reinforcements would cause complete panic. Sir, Admiral Vex is requesting permission to withdraw his battle group, his communications officer reported. He states that his dreadnoughts are experiencing power core instabilities. Admiral Threx is making the same request, added another officer. He claims his ships need immediate maintenance. Crixtal closed his eyes. His fleet was falling apart without a shot being fired. But more importantly, he was beginning to realize that attacking Earth would be suicide. If humans could build ships like the Leviathan, and if their entire civilization was geared toward warfare as Captain Rodriguez claimed, then the Zephyrian Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had not discovered a new world to conquer. They had discovered a species that could destroy them. Captain Rodriguez, Crixtal said slowly, what your terms for our withdrawal? The human captain's expression didn't change. Simple. Your fleet leaves the system immediately and never returns. You report to your empire that humanity is not a species to be conquered, and you spread the word to any other aggressive civilizations that Earth and her colonies are under human protection. And if we agree to these terms, then you live to see another day. Your ships return home safely. Your crew survive, and your empire learns a valuable lesson about the dangers of underestimating unknown species. Crixtal looked around his bridge at officers who had served with him for decades. They were skilled warriors who had won dozens of battles. But they all understood that this situation was different. They were facing an enemy that had been preparing for this exact scenario for thousands of years. And if we refuse? Crixtal asked, though he already knew the answer. Rodriguez's smile was cold and final. Then you become the first alien species to experience the full military might of humanity. And trust me, Commander, that is not an experience you want to have. The communication ended, leaving the Zephyrian bridge in silence. Crixtal stared at the human ships positioning themselves around his fleet with professional efficiency. Every movement was calculated, every formation was perfect, every weapon system was precisely targeted. These were not the actions of a peaceful exploration species. These were the actions of apex predators who had turned warfare into an exact science. "Sir, your orders?" his tactical officer asked quietly. Crixtal took a deep breath and made the most difficult decision of his military career. All ships begin withdrawal procedures. Set course for the nearest hyperspace jump point. "Sir, are we retreating?" "No," Crixtal said firmly. "We are conducting a strategic withdrawal to avoid unnecessary casualties. The humans are correct. We underestimated them." Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, ships began turning away from the human vessels and moving toward the edge of the system. For the first time in the Empire's history, a Zephyrian war fleet was retreating without firing a single shot. As the alien ships disappeared into hyperspace, Captain Rodriguez opened a channel to Earth Command. "Admiral Sullivan, this is Captain Rodriguez reporting successful completion of rescue mission. All personnel from the Ranger are safe, and the alien fleet has withdrawn from the system." "Outstanding work, Captain. What's your assessment of the alien threat?" Rodriguez looked at the tactical data his ship had collected during the standoff. "Admiral, they're professional soldiers with advanced technology, but their tactics are designed for conquering peaceful species. Against prepared opposition, especially human opposition, they would be at a severe disadvantage." "Do you think they'll be back?" "No, ma'am. They've seen what one human warship can do. I don't think they want to find out what 100 human warships can do." As the Leviathan began its journey back to Earth, Captain Morrison joined Rodriguez on the bridge. "Captain, I can't thank you enough for what you did here," Morrison said. "Just doing our job," Rodriguez replied. "But Jake, I want you to understand something. What happened here today changes everything. Humanity is no longer alone in the universe, and we're no longer unknown." "What do you mean?" Rodriguez pointed to the long-range sensors. "Those aliens are going home with detailed scans of our ships and our capabilities. They're going to tell other species about us. Word is going to spread throughout the galaxy that humans are not to be underestimated." Morrison nodded slowly. "So we'll have to be ready for more encounters like this." "Exactly. But here,